I think the country is unwell. I think the country has been erupting, and I don't think we've done the work since the 2016 election to really open a process where people can talk to each other and be like, yeah, this is a really shitty deal. What do we want to do?
Hey, family, welcome to another episode of the Black Man's Roundtable. I am your host, Rodney Butler. Look, I know a lot's been going on, family. I'm with you. I've been feeling it too. And for that reason, I wanted to do kind of a special Black Man's Roundtable episode with you today. And I wanted to bring on two very, very, very smart, talented, beautiful ladies who, full disclosure, we know each other personally, and I've known them for a while. But I wanted to bring them on because, like you know, I'm not exempt from a lot of the things that happens in the country. That tends to challenge our, our senses, challenge our mental wellness, and for that reason, today I wanted to bring on these two ladies. Dr. Raquell Holmes, she is a consultant and social therapeutics coach. And Miss Rachelle Moore, she is a licensed clinical social worker and a psychotherapist, coach, and consultant. And please make sure you stay on and stay tuned for the entire episode, because at the end, these ladies going to tell you how you can reach them and any kind of events, programs, or anything that they may have coming up that you may want to indulge in. So without further ado, ladies, how you doing?
Doing well.
Much better now that
Much
we're
better
recording.
now.
Yeah.
Good, great. Look, again, I'm so glad you guys are able to be here because it is much needed right now throughout the country and throughout our communities. Our communities specifically, I think, can benefit from from what you all have to say tonight, and I'm looking very forward to it. I'm looking for this therapy myself. I'm just going to indulge with you guys. So with that, look, we will kick it completely right off. So I just want to start out saying this is that, again, like I talked about in the intro, I know people are individually dealing with a lot of issues with loss, with defeat, with not maybe knowing how to move on. They're dealing with that from a individual perspective, but as well as a collective perspective. Can you ladies talk about that?
Well,
Mhm.
it's lovely being here. Like I
It's lovely having you.
Thank you. And I really appreciated the question because it's the individual and the social,
Mhm.
right? And so there's so much that goes on that we experience personally, but it is an expression of the wellness or lack of wellness in our society or in our culture. And so I think right now in this moment, and I came to social therapeutics because I was doing political organizing, but I came to it as a way of helping people create together, create something new in the world together. And part of that is our emotional well-being, because responding to our society is part of our emotional response. It's individual, but it's also social. So I think many people are feeling anxious and uncertain, or uncertain what to do with uncertainty.
Mhm.
Uh, Rochelle, that's my first pass at responding to Rod's question. But
And I want to say thank you, Dr. Holmes, for letting the audience know how you came into social therapeutics.
yeah,
Because if I'd read you guys' bios, I'll still be talking. So definitely, Ms. Moore, still, Ms. Moore, feel free if you need to let them know, how you came about this work. That is absolutely fine. And then there'll also be a time at the end for it as well. But yes, I appreciate that, Dr. Holmes.
I do too. I could just say one word, synchronicity, but then that would be another long conversation. What is that? But I came to social therapeutics right out of graduate school when I became a social worker because I found I didn't know what to do to help people. I had gone through all this education, got the letters, got out of school, looking for a job, and realized I didn't know the first thing about how am I going to do therapy in real life, in a room with people. And fortunately, my first job was with a social therapist. She was my first supervisor. She was exemplary. I never saw anybody do therapy like this woman did. She was so kind, loving, giving, respectful. She knew how to create conversations with people that ordinarily were looked down upon, patronized, thought less of because they had a diagnosis. She didn't treat people like they were things. So I asked her how she learned how to do that. And she said, I'm a social therapist. That's how it started. I never heard of social therapy. This was back in the 90s. And social therapy was very postmodern and radical back in the day. But it has been a life changer for me and hopefully for other people that I've helped because it speaks to what we're going to be talking about the real world, the way it is, the way people are and because of how it combines uh, philosophy, psychology, and improvisation, it helps us to learn how to build with each other with what we have in the world. And it's not all pretty and it's not all ugly. We got this, that, the other, and then some, and we can build with it. And that's very practical. It is not theoretical to me. It's not a fantasy. It's as practical as the day is long. And that was what I was looking for practical. So, and because of that, I met Raquel and a lot of other people. Um, Raquel is actually me in Spanish, just so you know. And I had hair earlier
I know.
today and we moved it over. I cut it and he got it. So that's kind of how we're connected.
We're doing a visual version of diaspora.
Yes, and transformation
Yeah,
in real time.
So there's going to be so people are dealing with a lot of anxiety, as you guys know, right?
yeah.
Right now they're dealing with a lot of anxiety, a lot of trepidation, a lot of what's going to happen over the next, 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, with the political environment and other environments that are happening in America. There's a lot of things happening. Let's talk about a little bit how social therapeutics and how psychotherapy can help, with the anxiety that people are going to feel over the next several years, like, probably.
Yeah.
And probably felt before this election, I would guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, I have some thoughts, and I know Raquel does too. Um, I think part of what I would like to emphasize, or we would like to talk about, is how we, the people, to quote some of the statements that have been around a long time, we, the people, are how we can move forward together by building what we have in the world and in the sense of community. Um, I know I felt pretty lonely the day of the election for some reason, and it's weird because I'm not alone. But the fear that hit me for a minute made me feel kind of impotent and like, oh my God, what what am I going to do? Well, it's not I, it's what are we going to do? And fortunately, the we I'm talking about are a lot of people who are committed to making the world a better place. And one of the ways I have found is using the philosophy of social therapeutics because it's kind of a grassroots building model for people who want to do better, be better, and make things better. And I think the good news is that it's a totally creative process too. And that means we have power to do what we need to do because we create our emotions. The election did not create my emotions. I had an idea about something and I said something to myself and I felt some kind of way. I'm not alone in how I was feeling. However, I know because I did feel how I did, I am the one that can do something about it. Nobody else has to do anything about it. Can't do it alone, though. I believe we build with other people, and I believe helping others is kind of an intrinsic, kind of circular thing. We end up helping ourselves, and even more than that, even more people than we're thinking about.
Yeah.
And creating conversations with each other is key. And I never learned how to do that until I got out of school and found social therapeutics because communication is key.
Hmm. Definitely. I think the hard part about coming into this election is that we've been organized to not talk to each other.
Mm,
So and that's across black working class, black upper class, educated, not, and then go beyond that, black,
Mm,
white, just we've been pitted against each other
yes.
in our identity politics. And so in the propaganda from whatever
mhm,
side you're looking at, that was a part of our political process. And I just learned, I mean, I've been a political organizer since community organizer. And when I say political, what I mean is like organizing grassroots for people to come together and create what they want, what they
mhm,
need. But I just learned what propaganda was in terms of the bias that's put into the information that we're getting. So
mhm,
we've been fueled to be separated from each other. And as human beings, we're just not, we don't do well in isolation, right? Like, isn't that's part of, like, we don't put people into isolation unless it's meant to be problematic, or not problematic, but like as a punishment.
mhm,
So part of our anxiety comes with the narratives and stories that we've been told and that have been part of our emotional response coming into the election and even after. So
mhm,
whatever people were afraid of, in some ways, it has come into existence. The way to move around it, Rachelle, you were speaking to it, is in conversation, is in conversation with people that get us closer to what are we responding to? What is the fear? How do we understand what it is? And how do you actually get closer to it? So we're building with that we're afraid. We're building with that we're anxious. We're building with that we're not sure if the guns going off at night were celebration or threat, right? So there's different things that are happening. And so the ways that we can get close to supporting each other, to growing, to having what we need is in community, in building community, and building it with whatever's going on for us at the moment, the question we have that
mhm,
gets us closer to each other, so that there's one thing we get to do. The world is happening. Racism is there.
mhm,
Structural, systemic racism, the inequities of our democracy, of our political governmental structures exist. But we still get to create with each other. That's how we got here, is we
mhm,
didn't let it, we did, the black community did not leave each other alone and said, what can we create? We fought our way into the Democratic Party. We create outside of the Democratic Party.
mhm,
We create in different venues. People have
mhm.
choice. We're again in a diaspora.
Yeah,
So I don't know
yeah,
what you think of that community response, of
I
what it
think it.
is for people.
I
Yeah.
I think it's great. I was wondering if Rachelle, did you want to add anything onto that or
yeah. I really think community is the thing.
yes.
It's the we, and we're all over the world. We have a particular way of being in this country than in the other diasporan countries. Yet, what I've learned because of history, which I used to hate when I was at school, but I didn't realize it wasn't because I wasn't it was because I wasn't learning what I think history is now.
Right.
that I actually go out and seek out. It's not hidden anywhere. It just wasn't taught systematically. But we are definitely historically warriors. And I don't mean we were all kings or whatever. Some of us weren't. But I mean, we basically understand community, I think, in our DNA in a way. And I think, admiring of people like Raquel, who I met um, after I got out of grad school. And that was sort of the beginning of my real political activism in the community with ordinary people, trying to build something consciously. I finally stopped just complaining about things, sitting on the couch, ain't it awful kind of thing. I felt miserable. But once I started getting busy with people who had been doing this kind of work since they were kids, or at least teenagers, very committed to making the world a better place. Kind of like Michael Jackson's song, Make
Right.
the World a Better Place. I mean, I cry every time I hear it because I really do want to do that. I
Yeah.
really do want to change the world. And I'm not, crazy. I think it's possible. And I'm so glad that your roundtable is your population focus is Black men's
Yes.
roundtable,
Yes.
um, and military. I come from a military background. My dad was military officer, retired before he died. My brother still working for DOD, but
Yeah.
also an activist. He's a mentor to a lot of younger guys
Yeah.
who are now generals. And my brother was not a general, but he mentored a lot so that they could become generals.
Right.
And they do their work in different ways. But I really think Black men deserve to have a roundtable like yours from you,
Yeah.
because not and you're not separating men from women at
Oh no,
all, because
absolutely not. No.
we're all yeah, we're
Yeah.
all connected.
We're all
Some of my
connected.
best friends are Black men. I was raised by a Black man. No,
Yeah.
but I mean literally, and I think we need to do what you say, Rod, a lot, is not keep the Black silent. I like
Yeah.
the way you say you have a Black man's roundtable where the Black refuses to remain silent. I mean,
Yeah.
that is so
Yeah.
on point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Because it's true. It's true, Miss Moore, and there's probably only, I don't know, I don't even know how many episodes I've done. I've been doing this for almost 3 years now, but I'm sure 90% of them I find a way to squeeze in to our non-melanated people that listen to this or that stumble across this, to let them know that, yeah, it's called a Black Man's Roundtable, and if that's intimidating to you because you hear the word black, then I'm sorry, you're probably not my ally anyway. If you're bothered by that word, then you need to look inside yourself. But we can't afford to leave the Black silent in what we do.
mhm,
And I can tell people, Good Morning America. I don't know if that's a good one to use. I don't even know who on these shows, honestly, but I'm just assuming there's probably not a whole bunch of Black people. I don't even know, right? So, but you don't have to say Good Morning Black America, because everybody around the table is going to represent, the majority people in America, which are Caucasian people. But we can't do that. If it's just called the round table, I'm not probably going to get those guys that needs to be listening to this, which are African American men, more than anybody else. So, but I do want to say, you guys talked about community, and I guess what I want to, if you guys can go a little bit more maybe into, well, let me say this. I know I heard something today where, because I think, Ms. Moore, you brought up people, people have been doing this work for a long time, right?
mhm,
And you know that I'm in the political spectrum, but I'm more of an activist than a political guy any day of the week.
mhm,
But a lot of talk to those listeners, those viewers who have been in this game for a minute, for a long time, and we've been out here, talking to people, trying to get our people to see, what is happening, teaching them about history. Since we talked about the historical aspect of this, I've tried to tell people, going back all the way from 1865 to to the to Reconstruction, through Reconstruction, and showing them how this thing is very repetitive, about how, the masses always depend on black people in this country, even with Reconstruction, when Hiram Rebels and all those guys were elected, to the Congress. You see all these black men, because it was only men, they gave black men the right to vote, and black men voted 80% when they did that, and they were all over the Congress. They fixed things, and then you had the white lash. White lash always happened to us, right? And it's happening right now. But talk to those people. I heard today, talk to those people like myself who's been in the game for a long time, beating the streets, talking to people, and we're feeling a little defeated. Like, you almost want to just say, geez, okay, you get what you deserve. You get what you deserve. Give me a break. Can y'all talk to those people a little bit?
When
Present
this,
company included.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I was thinking, like, what is the defeat,
Right.
and what is it that you're defeated? And then I wasn't sure when you said you get what you deserve. Who's the
Yeah.
you in that?
So let me say, so the defeated is, the people who have been out here doing the work, okay, feeling defeated, meaning that, um, you know, a lot of people in America, obviously not everybody, but when we talk about the electorate, it's about split halfway down, right? And we know the biggest voting bloc in America are the people who don't vote, right? Who sit on their couches.
Right.
But with
Yep,
that
yep.
being said, for those people who are active participant in the electorate, half of that electorate believes that, that this is a culmination of having, this president elect to be able to come back into the presidency, is kind of could possibly be a end or a very drastic change to democracy, right? So that's what some people believe, and
Mhm.
so the defeated part of the people that I'm hearing, who's been, and those people are specifically ones that have, like I said, been out in these streets doing the work 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years even, and it's like, okay, I've done all I can do. Those are the people I want you guys to talk to. I've done all I can do, and now it is, people going to get what they deserve from this incoming administration, if that helps.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's hard in there is it misses one of those, I think, fundamental parts of organizing,
Mm-hmm.
and which is also is of the listening. So one of the things, and so history is both what we're creating going forward as much as what's happened in the
Mhm.
past. So we have been organizing. We are organized. People are organizing all the time because
Right.
human beings, individuals, are leaders and creators, whether they experience that or not.
Right.
Mhm.
So one of the challenges might be that part of that organizing of being on the street and doing something day in, day out to move people has been located in a party.
Mhm.
That's a possibility. So
Mhm.
the question is, if that's the vehicle, it narrows our possibilities. And I'm not saying people shouldn't
Mm.
organize within the Democrat, that people should organize what they believe in, period.
Right.
But what's happened in our country is it's become a this or that.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
It's Republican or Democrat. And as soon as you
Mm-hmm.
start to, and not only that, then it became it's either Kamala or Trump, right? And
Mm-hmm.
or Donald. I'm trying to do the equation, like Kamala
Right. Right.
Harris or Trump.
Gotcha.
So now the guess what? The world is more complex than that.
Yep.
Mhm.
And so people are boxed in. And so even though people are looking at 10 different things when they're going to that ballot, what am I thinking about Gaza? What am I thinking about the lack of a primary vote for a nomination? What am I thinking about the other whether this other guy's going to come through on what he says? What do I think about political process? All these things are going on, but we end up reducing it. And that's the challenge of our racism in this country
Mhm.
is it's both structural, systemic, and then it also then makes everything black or white. So I think in terms of being on the street, there's a listening to the people some of the young Black people of color that I talk to, I'm talking about a couple people right now, but they're like, the presidential election didn't matter to me. I don't feel it in my life. It doesn't hit me there. Are we listening to them? So organizing is it's less about convincing than it is listening to the people and letting what they're saying direct where we go. And that's what we do as social therapeutic coaches is the same thing. We're listening to what people are saying to us and let that shape where we go. It then at least, again, it's that arm in arm. Because I think when we hold on to like, I've got to get a particular result, and I'll say I was not pleased with our result. I get to say that. Um, but I do understand that because we've narrowed the choices that people can make in our ballot, that all of a sudden one act now defines everything. And I think we have to be smarter. I think we have to listen more. And I think as we talk to each other, not to convince, not to know, but to discover what people were thinking and feeling and grappling with. I think the country is unwell. I think the country has been erupting, and I don't think we've done the work since the 2016 election to really open a process where people can talk to each other and be like, yeah, this is a really shitty deal. What do we want to do?
So I'm kind of hearing too is that maybe we need to change our strategy a little bit, but not so much a political strategy, but like I said, you guys are therapists. Maybe we need to change the way, what I'm hearing is we need to change the way that we approach and think about our strategy. You know, like I said, like I alluded to, right? America, African Americans, first of all, I always say when I get an opportunity that African Americans specifically, I believe, are the most savvy voters in the world. We are the only people who, we were in not just slavery, we were in chattel slavery. Chattel slavery chattel slavery was different from any other type of slavery in the world, right? In North America and United States. And people admire us for such a short period of time to be able to come out of chattel slavery since 1865 was just not that long ago, right? I know the history of both sides of my family all the way back to the beginning, and I understand that's an anomaly, but I'm very, very proud of that, and I went into the world that way. But with that being said, my great grandfather was born in this. He was 1845 is when he was born. So 20 years he was into slavery, and which is how the Butler name came about. One of the largest plantations in the state of South Carolina. But with that being said, I will say that what I'm hearing, Dr. Holmes, and I'm hearing you say that we still have all the tools that we have from ourselves and from our ancestors to be able to do what we've always been able to do in America. We just need to change our approach a little bit and go back to that of not so much worrying about the team, the blue, the red jersey, or worried about the R or the D. It is we need to come together as a collective, do what we do, come out of the dugout, to use another sports analogy, and just start popping, home runs, everywhere they look. It's like, oh my God, this is what they're doing. So I think I tell people, one thing I tell people, Dr. Holmes, is that, they want to take America back. I don't know what back to. My belief in talking to so many people is that a lot of white people that I talk to, they kind of want to take it back to 1940s and 1950s. They thought that was the greatest time in America for whatever reason, right? So you know what? If they want to take it back to 1940s and 1950s and use those strategies, you know what? Maybe we should too, because maybe we should take our strategies that we utilize to bring about the civil rights of 1964 because of the work that people did. The work that our ancestors did and our mothers and our fathers did back in the 1940s and 1950s it gave black people a lot of prosperity from 1964 on. So maybe need to go back with some of the strategies we use. And I don't think it revolved around the around the D, like Dr. Holmes saying, and around the R, because before 1964, many black people were Republican. We don't really care about the R and the D. What we care about is voting for our own interests. And like I said, like I was about to say, is that I think we are some of the most savvy voters in the world because we've always had to vote for our lives. We don't play around with it. And since 1865, look at, again, chattel slavery. Look at how far we've come. That those are savvy politicians, African Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things I like about what you're saying about going back to the strategy of the 60s, let's say, is it is that very, again, grassroots, what can we build
Mm-hmm.
together?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I think, and we didn't have yet, so actually in the 60s is that birth of the identity politics,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that too is that as we fought our way in again to the Democratic Party, right? Um, the Fannie Lou Hamer, all the work that went into that, that it became clear that that people were going to use who we are, the needs of the Black community or other marginalized communities, to get political power. But the people are the power.
Mm-hmm.
The people on the streets, the people who do vote, and even the ones who are sitting out, they're saying like, no, the game has been rigged for a while. So again, this is why I say the listening. I need a reason to vote because it gets narrowed into these 52% margins or 50, like what's going
Right.
to change. So we have to invigorate a reason to vote. And I think that has to do with being able to say to somebody on the street, I don't know what just happened. I'm scared. What are you thinking? What do you want to do? What can we do? You want to do like let's at least have a coffee together. Let's learn something new. Let's try something different. People are having to build new ways, new institutions, new collaborations, new ways of thinking and experiencing what's going on. And that's so the therapeutic work that we do is to help people work with, yes, you are again feeling afraid or there are threats in the world. So we can actually talk directly about racism and the impacts that that has on our lives. We are Black in the world. That means we have a particular experience. So what do we want to do with that? How do we respond to the neighbor? Do you want to go talk to them? Do you actually need somebody else to go talk to them? Do you know who they are? What There's some practical specific things that come up about organizing our lives with others
Mm-hmm.
as leaders of our lives, as activists in our lives. Um, and that also means taking in time to just weep.
Yeah.
Rachelle, what are you thinking?
Yeah. And as I'm listening to you, and I know you too, I was thinking and figure out a way for us to put our body where our mouth is. I know you as a person who does the things that you're talking about that we need to do strategically. When you
Let's,
meet people, you, Raquel, and Rodney too, um, you you talk to people, you listen to people, you make connections with other people who make connections with other people with other people. It's not really a mystery how people connect with each other. Today, as I was buying groceries because I have to eat at Trader Joe's, I met two wonderfully powerful Black women. Both of them worked there. I did not know them. We kind of connected on fashion a little bit, you know. That's how we started talking. But within minutes, we were talking about what we're talking about. And they said, let's change exchange contact information because first of all, we need somebody like you, Rochelle, for our mental health. Because right now we are working with a lot of people that need some help with what's going on. And we are active in what we do. And these were people, not the managers of the store or anything, regular, ordinary, wonderful people in the store. And we didn't know each other. And they've already connected with me. I also spoke to them about Rodney's roundtable, and they were really happy about that. And then started telling me about some groups that they're working with young Black folks. And this was like in in Trader Joe's while I'm going through the vegetables and whatnot. And it was a real connection. I mean, we talked for maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then they had to kind of get back to work. But this is not an abnormal occurrence to me to just, and I don't care who the people are. I mean, I'm not looking for people who look like they might agree with me particularly, because you can't really tell anyway by looking. But
Right.
I'll talk to anyone that wants to do something different with me. We're not trying to, like she said, we're not trying to convince people, overthrow something, change somebody's mind. I think we're trying to change the world. You can keep your mind. The world needs to change, and it'll change with us in small, person to person to person to person. But everybody's part of some group somewhere, even if it just starts with your family. That's a group. But people are ready to do things. And I think this last election, for me, right after I got through the immediate kind of disappointment, I was immediately more activated and more mobilized to do more. It just gave me a reason to do more. And I knew there were a lot of other people too who were thinking the same way because everybody didn't vote for whoever people voted for. And I really think this, I'm not looking at it as all gloom and doom that just happened,
Right.
because it just isn't.
Right.
And I guess age has something to do with it too. Um, some other presidencies that I thought, were going to be a lot worse, and they weren't. So, but it's the people connecting with each other, and that's why they like to come to us for help, social therapeutics, because it's very culturally relevant, diverse, including internationally diverse. It's not just, you know, a North American thing. It's all over the world because people really want change and they want to see the world more connected. And it is. I think there's a lot of propaganda that we hear about people being all split apart and whatnot, but I think on the ground, I don't think people are that uh, split
Yeah.
apart. I mean, if we listen to the rhetoric and some of the hype, yeah, it sounds like it. But when you just talk person to person, it's not really like that.
Well, and I think that's part of the work, Rochelle, that we help people like learn, but also what it is to kind of respond when we're in our own heads, when we're in the stories that the world creates, when we're by ourselves looking at the demons, whether they're real, like we're looking at them in different ways. They're historical, they're present, the threat. So there's a threat of violence in the world right now. It's visible, it's recognizable, and it's hard to tell, and it's hard to tell what's immediate next to you and what you're imagining. It's
Mm,
almost impossible to do that by ourselves. Jeremy, like, so I have a sister who is schizoid affective. So I love her dearly. She is one of the most kind people I know. And she deals with having horrible things in her head all the time. And she doesn't know which is like, and it always sounds like an outside voice, or she sees different things. And it takes being in conversation with other people to be able to tell the difference. It's like,
mm,
oh, that's a human voice. Okay, I got that. That's a human voice, right? So we're not we're not that no human beings far from that.
mm,
We have to talk with each other to get closer to what is the real threat around me and what is the one I'm imagining. Um,
mhm.
and it's a building of conversation. I think I wanted to add that in, Rochelle, to what you were saying, in
Yeah.
the sense of people connecting. Like, what is it to build a conversation, to discover what we're saying to each other. We'll use the same words. We think we know what we're talking about. We're like, yeah, I understand. Like, but we don't. Like, we have very different backgrounds. Even as being Black in America, we have very different experiences.
Yes.
We need the room to come together and say, well, what are you talking about? How come you think that way? And there's when we sit there, even in pain together, but we're building a conversation and discovering the other activities that people are doing to build. Rodney, your round table, right? That you're building something, right? Black Lives Matter, people were building something. They know we are. It's not
Yes.
past tense.
Yeah.
We know that we're a part of something that's growing. So I think some of the loss that we're feeling in this moment is we're like, oh wow, that what we may not be able to use or make use of. People thought we would win something by having Kamala elected, and that's no longer there for us, right? But there are other things that are being built. So we got to keep exercising that building capacity because we built
Right.
things in the 60s. We built things that people were like, "Oh, wait, they're going to make this happen." Black Panther Party built the schools, the schooling
Mhm.
program, fed people,
Mhm.
community health. Like, we have that capacity. We have the capacity to create new ways of moving forward politically and emotionally. And it is that emotional growth that we need to be able to keep going.
Mhm.
I think when we focus our energy, when we focus our energy internally, right? Because again, we are different from any other people on the planet. I don't care what anybody say. If you want to have a conversation with me, I'll be glad to have that conversation with you. And I can guarantee you, of course, not you two ladies, I'm talking about the listeners or anybody. I can guarantee you that I'm probably going to set you down pretty quick. Okay. We are different. We've had to go through different things. And I think in times like this, when we go internal, the world watches everything we do, period. You know, I tell people, these state universities, these flagship schools, um, these things were created to study us, to study who we
Mm.
are, what we're doing. Everybody always worried about what we're doing. We're never really worried about what anybody else is doing. So I think we probably need to go back into some of that. And I say that to also say that I think that, um, I've been telling young people that I've been talking to that I've been giving them little bit of tidbits. I'm a person that believes in Saturday school. We used to have that. I'm not. Yeah, we used to. And I think the Jewish community still have it. Some of the other communities they still have Saturday school. So you know what? We wouldn't worry so much about what they're teaching us, our children in these schools or public school. They taking out this. They teaching them. They taking out all the black books and whatever. Guess what? You know what? How about we just, if we do things like send our kids to these schools to learn, reading, writing, and arithmetic, and we teach them those social things and those historical things that they need to know in our Saturday schools. We don't care what they're teaching them as far as that kind of stuff because they're getting it from us. So when Raquel is talking about, coming back, and you as well, Rachelle, coming back to what we do best, right? I think that is some things that we need to do. I told her I was on a couple of weeks ago. I was on a panel. I was invited on a panel of young of African American young men committing suicide, right?
Mm.
And I was actually invited to two panels on that same Saturday morning, but I went to that one, and I'm so glad, and I feel so honored to be asked to be on these panels and these round tables and stuff. But one of the things that was young people there, and I talked a lot about what we have to do right now more than any time is to research and then teach. To research and then teach. And what I mean by that is I told the young people, I was like, we just talked about chattel slavery, right? I said, look, we got these algorithms on our phone, right? On our phones. And I said, I want you guys to look up these three words, or search for them so we can change. I want to change your algorithms while we are in this meeting. And I had them look up chattel slavery. And I forget, what the other one, but I had them to look up barrels of laughs, right? And
Mm.
because we were talking about mental health, and I told them, I said, I want you to not just look up barrel of laughs, but I said, first of all, have any of you ever heard that verbiage or that phrase? And I said, they really didn't, because people don't really use it no more. But we were born in the 1900s, all of us, so we familiar with and usually when people say barrel of laughs, they are usually saying it in a sarcastic way. Oh yeah, you're a barrel of laughs, right? And I told them, not just look up barrel of laughs, but look up the origin of barrel of laughs, right? And I said, what you will learn, this is the kind of stuff that is so different from us than anybody else in the world, that back during slavery, that your ancestors could literally not laugh publicly. They could not be seen laughing, they could not be heard laughing, okay? They could never show any kind of happiness, and they had to literally laugh in a barrel. And I said, I have so many of those terminologies for you guys and you would be like, what, really? I said, usually if it doesn't make any kind of sense at all, like, how do you put laughs in a barrel? I said, you can usually date that kind of stuff back to slavery, because that is the kind of stuff that our ancestors were put upon to do. And then of course they looked it up, and they saw the pictures with the black people laughing in the barrel, the cartoon pictures or whatever, as they looked that up. But I was literally changing their algorithms on their phones as I was giving them this stuff to research and look for. And when I talked about that stuff, they literally sat up in their seats. And one last thing before you ladies go on is, as far as the listeners and as far as what I know people are feeling, I don't know. Let us know if it's, as far as therapeutically, as far as, um, you know, let us know whether I believe that right now that we should not feel bad for coming to each other, looking to each other right now, right? And maybe canceling out some of the noise of some of the propaganda media that's out there, some of the things that are trying to, mess with our head. I also remind people that, back in the day, there was once upon a time that, what's up? How you doing? What's going on? I remind them that was for real. Like when you pass by another brother or another sister, you like, what's going on? Yeah, just got lynched over there. You know what I'm saying? You really asking what's going on, what's happening. You know,
Yeah.
we need to do that right now. I believe, and I want for you guys to help me with this, to help our listeners and viewers understand that right now we really do need to be asking each other what's happening, what's going on, all that stuff, but for the purposes that we did it back, 120 years ago.
I think we need to be doing that all the time, regardless. The honest checking in of what's going on, how are things happening.
Mm,
And I think I mean, like, what I'm appreciating is also like, again, I'm hearing you say something like, we can create our well-being, right? Like, whether it's like having a sense of our history of where something came from, right? Like, there was that, you gotta laugh in a barrel. It's like they found a way to have their laughter
mm-hmm.
and in awful conditions, but
Mm,
that was created. So I think we need to be checking in and with each other all the time without expecting it to be a certain thing, right? So not everybody is upset that
mm,
not everyone in the black community is upset that Trump was elected.
That's right.
You
mm,
know, how come? Not that they should be, but how come?
Right.
Not everybody, that's the discovery part that I think is important to our well-being. And it does take reaching out to each other and saying, "How are you doing?
mhm,
What's going on? What's happening? What's happening for you?" And to build something with that, like just the ability to talk to someone and ask them the question. That's what's been therapeutic for me in this
mhm,
past week, even just doing the show. So it's like the building. Rod, you have a show. We're gonna do this show. I get to ask people, "Hey, What were you thinking about? How are you doing with the election?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
and being in that conversation together is helpful because we can continue to build some stuff together.
Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
really get back to asking each other what's going on,
Hmm.
what's happening.
Really,
Really
really.
get back to that because we've never been allowed to, you know, we've always had to depend on each other. And I just think that, and I want you, maybe Ms. Moore, to talk about maybe how I feel right now that we shouldn't feel guilt or anything by, you know what? So I'm not saying, look, so, well, I'll tell you what, if you guys can talk about this for a little bit, right? I don't think that we should cancel people out of our lives just to be canceling them because because they voted for Donald Trump or voted for Kamala Harris. I don't think that we should do that for those reasons. However, I'm very comfortable. That's why I'm glad I have you guys on today. I'm very comfortable telling people that I don't really want to associate for my own mental health and mental wellness right now. I don't want to do a whole lot of associating with people who may not share my morals, my values, my principles. So you may think that, oh, you dropped me because I voted for Trump. No, I may not want to hang with you right now because you are somebody who dismisses the racism, the misogyny, and all of those things that Donald Trump has a 34 convicted felon, someone who has been liable for rape of found liable. Anyway, found liable for rape and all these things. But it ain't because you voted for Donald Trump. It is because you align yourself or you are willing to dismiss those things. And so is that okay? And I know, and I'm not asking you guys, of course, to answer for. I know everybody's an individual. I don't have to tell you guys that, but everybody's an individual. But if you guys can just talk on that a little bit about, because I know people are ready to, you know, get away
Oh,
from certain people for their own mental health, and I just believe that it's okay to do that, but not because they voted for somebody, but because if you, like they said, if you want to know what somebody really feel, if you want to know what somebody what an organization really care about, then look at their look at their budget, right? That'll tell you everything you need to know. Well, if you're aligning yourself with some of the things that Mr. Trump believes in, and he didn't dog whistle, I don't know if I don't know if I feel comfortable with that.
Rachelle, did you want to? And I
I
have
think
a response.
I think you're raising the real deal about why this is so uncomfortable and uh, why organizing isn't a well, it's very complex. I mean, you're talking about relationship building that's very complex. And I don't know if there's an easy answer on how to do the connecting with people, but I really think the work is when we don't particularly see eye to eye or agree with whatever. And I might be really naive about it, but I really think it's because we don't know each other very well, typically. In our culture, we're kind of superficial and just kind of move around and about. We don't have real transparent conversations where people are really being, I don't know, not trying to impress each other, but really trying uh, to do something. Maybe we won't have coffee together, but we might be building something. I just notice when I am doing work with people, building something with them, and the building could look like something playful, even. We could be doing an event together where it's kind of lighthearted, not heavy duty. But when we're done, we feel like we did something. We're together on a different level, whoever the people are. We were strangers at the beginning and we did something that we both believed in that was good. Like after this with the three of you, I'm already feeling closer to the two of you than before we started this conversation. And this
Yes.
isn't our first conversation,
Not
but
at
we're
all.
doing something together that we believe in. And of course, we're not the example of being at odds with each other, but who knows? We might have something that's a deal breaker that we don't know about. But the thing is, we've already built something that we could move forward with if it came up because we're doing what we believe in and we're doing it together. And I think it's the together part
Right.
that helps people, and it's the activity that people are doing together that helps them to connect. It's not rhetoric, it's not lip service,
Right.
it's what they're doing with each other. And I think a lot of that actually is going on more than we know. I think people are working together. We need to work harder together. We need to do more together. But I think it's continuous activity in building whatever it is we're trying to build. And there's no one way to do it, you know.
And Raquel, before you jump in, I would like to say that um I wonder how productive we talked about the three of us, uh, Rachelle, like you just talked about, the three of us talking together. We are in harmony. Your favorite word, we have that synchronicity, and I wonder how productive we would have been if we have a person amongst us that don't care about the autonomy that my daughter has over her body, right? Or how productive we would have been to have someone in, I'm talking about in this specific conversation, if we had someone who is willing to ignore saying, people from countries that are of color or from S-whole countries. You know what I'm saying? I just wonder how productive. And what I want, what I'm looking for, Dr. Holmes, is that I want for the audience to know, and I'm not asking you guys to give them a pass to say, yeah, it's okay to drop all those people. But what I'm wanting them to know from this is that, you know what, how maybe they should feel about, not wanting to be around people that they may consider that is harmful to their well-being, of their family, or of their situation, of their job, of their security or whatever, and to say, you know what, I think I need to take a break, a hiatus. So yes, Dr. Holmes.
I think we have to get beyond the labels that then act like we know what the human being in front of us will do. I have
Mm,
friends who are they're I would say they're most identified as libertarian
Okay.
and who they're mixed in different ways, white military, native, black,
Right.
white, not military. Um, and I'm I'm pretty sure they voted for Trump. I haven't asked them the question. I'm pretty sure they are
Right.
also the person who actually says to me when I say something critical, "Do you have to say that? Couldn't you say something kinder?" And I'm like, "I'm one of the kindest people that many people know,"
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
then I'm
Yes,
like,
you are.
"Yeah, they're some of the kindest people I know." Excuse me, right? They're some of the kindest people I know. And and they've hit all these other labels. So now and I am that person who at any moment I see a human being who I'm in the world with. And I'm like, hi, who are you? We're in this world together. What are you thinking about? And they're like, things are too narrow. We don't know why we voted these ways. We like we are trapped in a system that has painted us by one flip of a switch to say, oh, that person, and then roll down the thing. That person would sell me down the river. That person would do X, Y, and Z. But we're doing this because we participated in this rigged game called the election that only had two choices. And because don't forget, many people will tell independent voters, of which I am one, if you vote for anything other than one of the two, you're wasting your vote, right?
yeah.
So we're in a rigged system. So for the challenge is to not cut people off It is to find ways to get closer to who we are as human beings who are in very painful world, a wicked world, right? The way that we've organized our world is wicked, where I tortuously go through my ballot and make a selection, and from that one point am now all these other things. So I think we do ourselves a disservice. My mother, a white woman, foster kid, parents were union, it was all the time of communist organizing, but she wouldn't associate with anything. She wouldn't associate with anything because it was all bad, right? So we had ended up after the divorce poor, right? Like that's because she couldn't work because there were evil people at work, right? Like, so I think we have to get smarter at the small things we can do with each other. That's the building. You have to, like, sometimes you can't build with people.
Mm.
That's, if you can't build with them, don't build with them, right? If that's the emotional cost is I can't be in a conversation with you, don't do that. If it's because you're suspicious that they did X, Y, and Z, it's like, well, why do you think that? Let's get support for that. Are you interested in having that relationship? Are you not interested? Is it important? Do you need that job? Like, so the emotional well-being comes from being in conversation with you, Rod, with Rachelle, with people who will help create our lives in this moment with the complexity rather than a label.
Doc, I'm glad you said suspicious because you reminded me of something that I heard yesterday, I believe, and I had not heard this, and that is that white women are wearing these blue
Blue bracelets.
bracelets, you know, to say, hey, I didn't vote for Trump. And so when I first heard that yesterday, there the suspicion, like you're saying, is what's attempted to be alleviated because we can't tell by looking at someone who they voted for. Um, and so I can't help but I understand the history of our country, right? And I definitely understand the African American history of our country.
Mm,
And I just there's a lot of people who are in my circles who look at that as, what should we do with that? Because for so many years we were held accountable for our blackness. No matter what, when you looked at us, you are guilty, boy. You are guilty, gal.
mhm,
And like they say, even today, when the cops pull you over, they're not going to ask you whether you're from Haiti or whether you're biracial or whether you're whatever. They're just going to, you're black. And so, blackness, like I talk about, what Ms. Moore talks about a lot, which is when I say that, you know, we we can't put that up. We cannot. That is not something that we can hide. We can't if And so I say that to say, I say that to say is I'm glad you brought up suspicion because some people have the ability to alleviate or to attempt to alleviate their suspicion, and we don't. We've been suspect since we've been brought here, and some people are really. And I found out that some people are really upset with white women. I just heard about it yesterday
mm.
that they are wearing these bracelets. But instead of wearing the bracelets, why don't you? Some people are like, why don't you talk to your racist relatives, to try to get them to understand, to not go along with some of the stuff that Trump does or whatever. If you could opine on that a little bit.
I mean, I think it's that I think the I'm a good one, right? Actually, Rochelle and I were speaking about just our hair, right? Like when we go out different places, part of wearing our hair in different ways is like, well, I'm one of the good ones. Don't think of me as black or don't think of me this way or like there's all these ways that that we make choices that way. So I think white women choosing to wear a blue bracelet is part of that I'm a good one kind of
Right.
thing.
Exactly.
And it doesn't engage any of the like, just regardless of who won. So let's say a Democrat or Republican, we still have a system that's in place that is incarcerating Black men in particular, but Black
Yes.
people, poor people,
Yes.
right? So we have a system that doesn't care that people are becoming homeless, houseless, which means undocumented, who are also going to be threatened with exploitation.
Mhm.
We have a country that's not in conversation, and we'd rather wear logos than be in the hard part of, and why did you? Right? Like, why did you vote for Kamala Harris? Was it for Kamala? Was it for the Democrats? Was it you wanted to continue the war? You didn't want to continue the war? You had a, like, there's so many things in there that we're trying to short circuit, and I don't know, I think there's no good one in this.
Yeah.
There's, like, we have there are times that I have conversations because I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna go there," and when I go to an all-white environment, and I'm gonna be there, and I'm going to engage in the conversation and say something like, "It's important to me that we have conversations across race and class. It's important to me that we come together and share our histories and experiences and learn about each other." And they're going to say, and in some environments, they're gonna say something like, um something other, right? But that doesn't matter. For me as an activist, as an organizer, I'm going to move it there. In a Black environment, I'm going to say something about being an independent. I'm going to say something about that we have varied opinions, that there's more to who we are than what we see in the media. If we're going to really talk about poverty, working class conditions, all of that is both emotionally challenging and therapeutic at the same time.
Mhm.
Because I know as I'm building that with hundreds of people around the country and the world, more thousands around the world who are like, we can create something new. We can create through play, through like having the impossible conversation. You never had it before. We'll create something new. That gives me hope. Those brief moments of building a conversation that otherwise would have never happened gives me hope. It gives hope for what we can create in this country. And I'm in a social therapeutic group. I have a coach. Every week I'm in with, it's a mixed environment, Palestinian, Jewish, white, straight, gay, men, women. We're learning how to create an environment where we're growing. It's not easy,
Mhm.
but it is therapeutic. And I try to do that in every moment of my life, which is, Rachelle, I know you speak to that in other settings of, like,
Yeah.
it's a daily, you started us off with that,
Yeah.
actually, that it's
It's
a
it's
daily.
practical.
Mhm.
It's practical. It's not theoretical, and it is how I choose to live my life. Um, and it is hard as hell. And I'm finding it harder sometimes with people that I find that I have the closer relationships with, because I have made myself vulnerable in those relationships. So what they say means more to me. And I can feel what they're saying, and I can feel if they're not liking what I said or whatever. There's more of a risk to be vulnerable, believe it or not, for me with people I'm close to, because they can one word and I'm done. But it's the grow. That's where the growing happens, though, is in an uncomfortable kind of zone, safe but uncomfortable zone. Because if I'm just comfortable, I'm not really challenging myself to do anything. But making myself vulnerable where it counts is the growth edge. And I think that's kind of an implicit agreement that we have. I mean, we don't have to ask each other, you down for really stretching your emotional muscles today? Because it really does require that kind of commitment and, I don't know, desire to, you know, to challenge yourself. And it is going to be difficult. And I was thinking that being with each other, those of us, like the three of us talking about making really important changes in the world, however small. I think that's how we get through all of the propaganda, all of the biases in the media, all of the other things that there's so much noise going on. Um, if we choose to be with the people that are really wanting to make a difference, and I don't mean that in a like a TV kind of way, but I mean
Right.
something that nobody would even know you ever did. It's not like you're going to get your name in the somewhere in the paper or something, but something that you know is needed and that's a challenge for you to do, and to do it with other people that have your back and support what you're doing. There are really lots of people that are trying to do better. And I think I say to some folks when they're kind of like disappointed and they have this woe is me, nobody's together, everybody hates everybody. You need to get out more.
Yeah.
You need to be with people more. I mean, you must not be going anywhere talking to anybody. As people are, and it's not enough, but it's not like nothing's happening with what we're talking about, you know? Um, and it has been, and I think it will continue to be.
That is a great segue into what I'm about to say, Ms. Moore. And I first of all, I want for the audience to know that they've seen you before, Ms. Moore. If they are followers of this podcast, it is the introduction of Dr. Raquell Holmes. I know that the people, Doc, you brought it. You brought it. Let me just put it that way. Okay. You brought it. I think that, I can't wait to see some of my DMs, on that. But it was a great inaugural, episode for you being on the family of the Black Man's Roundtable. Glad to have you on. And what I want for people to know is that before we get ready to close it out, is that you're going to be seeing these ladies. Family, you're going to be seeing these ladies because we need them right now. Those of you that follow the Black Man's Roundtable, the franchise now, because there's two other spinoff shows from the main show. If you follow this franchise, you know that I take mental health very, very seriously, and I'm not going to stop until it is no longer taboo in our community that we won't even give our daughter away in marriage, or our sons, or allow our sons to marry somebody unless it's like, who's their therapist? Oh, they don't have one? Oh no, you can't marry them. I wanted to get to that point, because I wanted to get to that point. That's how
Yep.
serious it is. But I just want to say that we have an opportunity. Both of you talked about, getting out. And Ms. Moore, you just said it in your ending comments, and Raquel, you've been saying it throughout, is to don't just assume with people, but also get out. Get out. The great thing about this inauguration, and I don't know if we're going to be able to get Raquel and Rachelle on at the same time before, because tomorrow is exactly 2 months before the inauguration, January the 20th. But either way, I know that after that inauguration, we have got to have them right back on here, because I know it's going to trigger and stimulate some people. But at any rate,
Early.
yeah, what I want people to know is that they talked about getting out. They talked about, going and doing other things. And guess what? The beautiful thing about this inauguration is that it's on January the 20th, and that's the same day as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. So I'm going to be out for the entire time doing things in the community. I'm out I think from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock Eastern time, and he's inaugurated at high noon. So I won't be, I'll be busy doing MLK stuff. So I would ask for you guys to kind of do the same thing and take Dr. Holmes and take Miss Moore's advice and get out and do things. And so with that, what I want for you ladies to do before we close out is I want you to think about, I want you to give your closing argument, at least for this episode, because you're not going anywhere, but I want you to give your closing argument for, as as a sister, as a black woman, as a therapist, all of your experience and everything that you know. Yes, okay, this, the followers of the Black Man's Roundtable, we never know how many people are going to watch each episode. Well, we kind of do, but it's a huge number in between. But as far as the followers, it's 65%, men, 35% women. So they're, the demographics are primarily men. But I'm not telling you to talk, exactly to those men, but I just want to remind you of that factoid. And what I want you to do, starting with Dr. Holmes, is to just give a closing statement, if you will, that may help the followers, the viewers of the roundtable, to get through at least this inauguration until they see your face again on this platform anyway.
I think it's not something I've said yet, which is something like, you're very valuable and we need you and we are here for you. And there are people who want to work with you for your life and for the well-being of our country. And you can find us. You can find us here. You can find us in our info. And keep looking for those people who are going to work and build with you and to help you grow and us grow. Because one of the things that happens to us as Black people in the world is people will not help us grow. But there are those who will. So those are the ones. They're here. It's Rodney, it's Rachelle, myself. We have a broad community of resources. Reach out. Don't be alone. There's no reason to be alone. There's nothing great about it. So we're looking forward to talking to you.
Okay, Dr. Holmes, and get ready after Ms. Moore. Get ready to let them know how they can reach out to you. But Ms. Moore, your closing statement for the followers of the roundtable.
I'd like to just say ditto what she said. I mean, there's no more to add except to just underscore, highlight, and exclamation points on everything Dr. Holmes just said. And we are here. We'll give you our contact information, but really reach out because that's as simple as that sounds. That really is the activity to actually get busy, reach out, and talk to someone and build with them. People that want to build with you, that you want to build with, unapologetically.
Thank you, Dr. Holmes. Let the people know how they can reach you, any upcoming events you may have, whatever. Let it rip, Doc.
Excellent. So, one of the things I organize that I invite everyone to, and it's created as a cultural platform for our expression, for people's expression of freedom and independence, Emancipation to Independence Day. It's called the Freedom Festival. And you can find us at freedomfestivalusa.org, freedomfestivalusa.org. And you're welcome to find me at improvscience.org, which is my consulting, improvscience.org. Um, the contact info is best there. So freedomfestivalusa.org or improvscience.org. Reach out, say you heard me on the Black Man's Roundtable, and I do respond. And I'm looking forward to again hearing from you.
You do great work, Doc. You do
Yeah,
great work.
thank you. And
Ms. Moore,
Rachelle,
uh,
yes, Miss Moore.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
let them know how they can reach you and anything you have coming up.
Okay. Well, I am a psychotherapist in the Atlanta area. I do remote therapy. My website is rachellemore.net. And Rachelle is spelled R-L, well, you can see it, Rachelle. So you can reach me also through that, which has my email on it and phone number, I believe. But just in case the phone number is not on there, the phone number is 404-550-7560. And also you can reach me through the Black Men's Roundtable and Rodney Butler.
Absolutely. Ladies, it's been a blast. I cannot believe that it looks like an hour and almost 20 minutes has gone by. It seemed like we've been on here for 3 minutes. I have so much more, to converse with you guys about, to learn from y'all. And I just can't wait until the next time. And like I said, I know the listeners, I know the followers can't wait as well. So, yeah. So anyway, with that being said, ladies, again, thank you so much for all of your input. People are really gonna. I think this is gonna at least get us through January 20th, and but it's been much needed, and I appreciate it. So, with that, family, you can catch the Black Man's Roundtable the third Thursday of the month. Also catch the Black Man's Roundtable Roundup with Rodney and Rodney the second and fourth Thursday of the month, and the Black Man's Roundtable Local Lookout with Rodney and Bobby the first Thursday of the month. All episodes drop at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Until next time, we'll see you in them suites and them streets. Peace.
Peace.
Don't forget to check us out on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Do you have show ideas or want to be on the show? Shoot us an email at blackmansroundtable@gmail.com. And please follow us on Facebook.
1,